The 2025 committee should be the key members to serve on the capital planning program, capital planning committee. And so that's why you're all here. So this is going to be a pretty intensive process. It's going to be a fairly lengthy process, and we'll go over your schedule tonight. So the departments have put together their recommendations. That doesn't mean that you may not have some additional programs that you want us to consider, or you want to consider and look at. So with that said, let's start. You all may know each other or you may not. So let's start and go around the room and introduce yourselves, tell you a little bit about yourselves, specifically what type of work you've done with the committee. A lot of you, most of you are on boards, other boards with the city. So tell us a little bit about you and about your city involvement. Robert, we'll start with you.
Great, thank you. Been a city resident of Lewisville for now, let's see, we built our house in 2002, so just over 10 years. We live right off Corporate, Gateway Parkway, in the subdivision. Love the city, got involved early on. I was part of the Zoning Board of Adjustment for a couple of years, and then appointed to the Parks and Recreation Department. After the last 2 years, I've served as chairman of the Parks and Recreation Board. Let's see, additionally, last year I was just appointed to the 4B Park and Library Development Board, which also, that if you don't know about that board, it's more about the spending of the 4B tax fund for specifically parks, recreation, and library needs financially. Personally, got a family, 3 kids, do a lot of coaching. Kids are very active in sports, and let's see, as a job, I'm vice president of business development and strategy at my company. Been there just over 5 years. Headquartered out in Fort Worth. We're an outsourced sales and marketing firm, and so I lead all their strategic development. About $250 million a year in revenue.
Thank you.
Ray Hernandez, been here, I think moved to Lewisville in April of last year. I've been involved with various cities in this type of capacity. I was on the 1984 Master Plan Committee for the city of San Marcos. I've been on numerous committees there, Blue Ribbon committees, also the city of Kyle, on their Economic Development Board, led their tourism board. My job is the president of the Lewisville Area Chamber of Commerce, and I got into the industry back in '98. So been involved with development in different areas, a lot of work dealing with arts funding in my past. Have 3 beautiful kids, 2 that still are at home with me. My beautiful wife, Belinda. She works at the University of North Texas. And something fun is that I was tricked into being in the World Championship tamale eating contest last year. Not this year, but the year before. And it was a fun experience.
He didn't win either. We were all really disappointed.
And I did not come in last place. That's all I can say.
How many did you eat?
I ate 14 and didn't eat for a couple of days. I moved to Lewisville because of the job, but I accepted the job because of the opportunity. Where I was at before, things were great. And I came to Lewisville because it's different. This community is built out. It's more challenging to go to a property owner or to a business owner and ask them to improve their infrastructure when they already have. So if the example of a fence. I got a fence, there's nothing wrong with the fence, it's doing what it needs to do. So making that challenge to them of why they should improve that. And so I came here to do those type of things. We've been very successful at the Chamber in engaging the business community in all areas. And serving on the 2025 plan, we looked at some innovative things that other cities have never done before. One I know that's been topic of conversation between me and Bob lately is maybe reinvesting into neighborhoods, at least for the thoroughfares in neighborhoods, and providing some incentives for people to fix their fence, or paint their house. We can't fix the whole neighborhood, but those kind of things. And so I hope that I can contribute to this. I don't come in with any perceived, hey, this has to be this way. Obviously, my job, I represent 738 businesses. There's a lot of egos in the room. There's a lot of perspectives in the room. And so I think one of my gifts is to be able to help manage a variety of ideas and find some consensus.
Karen Locke, I moved to Lewisville in 1982. Got here as soon as I could. We moved away in 95 and came back in 99. So we feel like we've been here 32 years, but really haven't been here that long. When we moved here, there was a stoplight at Mill Street. There was a stoplight at Old Orchard. And I can't remember whether there was one at the freeway or not, but that was it. And there were 8 elementary schools in Lewisville ISD. We've come a long way, and one of my reasons for wanting to be on the 2025 committee was I spend my day with children, and I see that we have a lot of children that don't have everything they need, and I think that there are things our city can do to help make their lives better, as well as making everybody else's. I've been married 43 years. I have 2 wonderful children and a grandchild. They live in Katy, sadly, but I think we have a lot of business to take care of, and I think we can make our city wonderful. I don't want it to be like any place else. I don't have a picture of it being Grapevine or Denton or any of that, but I think we can have things as good as that. I see us being able to progress, and I think we have to start with our main part of our town here, where the city hall is, and our neighborhoods.
I'm Toya Gant. I've been here in Lewisville a little over 2 years. So I'm originally from Atlanta. I moved here mainly.
Never guessed.
I moved here mainly because of my job. I work for the Department of Defense. I'm an estimator, and I was recommended for this board because of one of my neighbors who is I met in my neighborhood. I live in Vista Ridge Estates, and he was like, "I got a great idea for you." I was like, "For me? Are you sure for me?" He was like, "You're going to 2025." Well, I said, "Yeah, I loved it." He said, "Well, great. I got another one for you." And so that's how I came here. I'm actually I'm a treasurer on the homeowners board for our neighborhood. So I'm passionate about budgets, passionate about money, because that's what I do for the government. And he was like, "I like that passion. We need some planning." He said, "You're not afraid to say no. You're not afraid to say spend all the money." So that's why I'm here. Yep, that's why I'm here. I have no pets, no children, just me and my husband. We travel a lot, enjoy it a lot, and that's pretty much it.
I forgot to add my 10 years on the library board. I served the city, yes. 10 years on the library board.
Kristen Green. Me and my husband moved to Lewisville in 2008, so I guess that means we've been here a little over 6 years. We have a 14-month-old little boy at home. And, he was actually one of the reasons why I wanted to move to Lewisville, because I have heard that Lewisville had really good schools, and I wanted to come and be a part of that. He didn't come till several years later, but, and I still haven't experienced that yet. But as far as what I do professionally, I'm a civil engineer. I own my own small community consulting firm, and we do civil engineering and planning. And I'm excited about this committee because it gives me the opportunity to for 2 reasons, things that I'm passionate about. One, infrastructure. I'm an infrastructure person, which I'm sure David can appreciate. And I've done some work for the City of Lewisville Engineering Department, and the other thing I feel very strongly about is, strong neighborhoods, just like you said. I feel that is the life of the community, and I also feel like the old town is extremely important too, and I'm really want to see that moving forward. I'm really excited about the stuff that's going on down here, and I guess I'm also on, I forgot to mention, I'm also on P&Z, and I was on the diversity committee with these two. And, yeah, I think that's about it.
Oh, thank you, Krista. Amanda?
I'm Amanda Ferguson. I have a business here in the historic district, and then I've sat on numerous boards throughout the years with the city of Lewisville. I was born here in 1973, and then moved away, and then came back, and moved away, and came back from school and whatnot, and then have found myself here and have established roots, and appreciate that Lewisville really has that sense of community to offer. I'd like to see the growth that we've come since, would you say, 82? I can remember when there was dirt roads and very few stoplights, and how much we've grown, and where we are today, and then where we're going is really important.
Garden Ridge was dirt.
Yes, it was.
Tamala?
Well, I'm Tamala Bowie, and my husband and I, we moved here in 1991. And how I got involved with the city is when Hobby Lobby moved out of the city. And I came down here and I spoke to Elizabeth Trosper in the economic development. I'm like, we gotta get it back. Because my husband and I, we own two businesses. I do interior design. We have our own insurance agency. So of course, retail is very, very, very important to me. And so I like to say I'm the queen of shopping here in Lewisville. I will fight for retail here, quality retail. So that's very important to me, as well as schools and neighborhoods. And I have been on the Community Development Block Grant as a committee member since 2007. So 2007, I was on the the Ad Hoc Neighborhood Preservation Committee. I was also on the 2025 committee with Amanda and Kristen on the diversity. And I was asked to be a member here. It was so funny, my husband was like, why do they keep asking you to be on these boards? I said, well, maybe it's because I would say the things that people won't say. So, and everything like that. I mean, I'll be professional about it, but I'm just that person that will say what people want to say and won't say it. And I'm just excited, I will defend Lewisville to the hills. And if you ever go on Facebook, see a Lewisville Facebook page, you'll see me on there defending our city and everything like that. And I'm just excited to see all the great things coming and happening here, because we made the decision to live here in Lewisville. When we moved out here in 91, we lived in Flower Mound. Was not well received in Flower Mound by no means. So I tell my husband, it's not, by happenstance that we ended here in Lewisville. We're here for a reason. And we've been here since 91, and I have a son that's a junior in college. I have a 14-year-old daughter that is at Kilo North. And we're fighting farmers and fighting farmers forever. If we ever move from here, live up in Michigan, we're still going to be fighting farmers. So that's about it for me.
I'm Bob Troyer. I moved down here in 1984 with my family from Toledo, Ohio. We moved to Lewisville because, well, actually, I moved to Flower Mound originally. We moved to the area because of my youngest daughter, who was a swimmer, and she looked at a number of swim clubs in the area and chose Lewisville Aquatic Club as who she wanted to swim for. She had been recruited by a number of other clubs in the area, and we decided we'd come here because this is where she wanted to be. So that's why we're here. Besides that, and the schools. I work for a very, 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 very small computer company providing identity verification and document imaging for primarily financial institutions. Work from home. Actually moved into Lewisville in '96 from Flower Mound. So, but I've been here in the area since '84. I got involved in city in the city through Vision 2025 because I was interested in parks and the city bike trails and that sort of thing. I'm currently serving, I was just recently appointed to the park board, so I'm serving on that. I was chair of the resource management committee of Vision 2025 and had Aaron and Clay as my members. Let's see. I'm president of the Lewisville Morning Rotary Club. We've just recently added we've added one member and we're hoping to add another one. And she's sitting right there and he's sitting right over there. Anyway, let's see what else. I guess that's, my daughters are both grown and I have 3 grandkids, so, and I hate to say it, but I've got a great grandkid coming on its way.
Oh, congratulations.
So I don't think of I can't think of myself as a great grandfather, but anyway, that's it.
Thanks, Bob. Derek?
Good evening, I'm Derek Hyenga. I've lived in the Metroplex all my life. I moved to Lewisville for love. My wife has been a resident for 20+ years, and she brought me out here, and at first I didn't see the beauty. And after a bit, it just kept growing on me and growing on me. When we got married, I said, we're gonna live here. I really got involved with the city for the first time with the 2025, and as I dug into the work, I was really very, very, very impressed by the quality of work that had gone before. And I always say quality attracts quality. Great things are about to happen in Lewisville. And you just feel it, you can taste it, you can see it. And so I'm excited to be here.
The third item on your agenda is election of chair and co-chair. So while you give that some thought, we're going to go around and staff's going to introduce ourselves to you. And so I'm hoping that one of you are going to want to step up and say you want to be the chair, and then I'll relinquish the seat. But let me let you think about that, and we're going to go around the room. And I guess we'll start with me. I am Donna Barrett.
We need to swear in. Just want to make sure.
Yeah, when he got here, we took him to the side. I'm Donna Barrett, I'm the city manager. I've been here since 1990. I was born out in West Texas. I am a Texan born and raised, but not born in Lewisville. Had my master's in public administration from Texas Tech, the University of Texas. Won't argue with the A&M graduate beside me, but
The beside you.
I started my career here as the Human Resources Director and then was promoted to ACM in '96. And then city manager, it seems like 50 years ago, but it was actually just back in May. So with that said, Mr. Backus?
My name's Steve Backus. I'm Assistant City Manager over Parks and Capital Projects and Public Services. And I've been here since 1976, in my current position since 98, I think, somewhere in that area.
I'm Melinda Galler. I've been here 27 years. I've worked in the police department for a few years, and then I've been in HR. I was the HR director until May, when I was promoted to assistant city manager, and I'm over police and fire, emergency management, ITS, and HR.
You left out, how many years did you work in the police department?
I was in the police department about 5 years before I went to HR.
We never allowed her to have a gun, but she wasn't.
They still don't allow me to have it.
Gina?
I'm Gina Thompson. I've been with the city 14 years, one of the newbies in the city staff. I'm the Director of Strategic Services, and in that I do budget and research, and I also do process improvement studies, strategic planning, any type of city manager work that she asks me to do. I'm located in the city manager's office.
Jennifer?
Jennifer Malone, Executive Assistant for City Manager's Office. Been here 16 years. Worked for Eric in Community Development for a long time.
Just really seemed like a long time.
Yes. public
I don't hear
services.
back then.
He didn't.
I'm Eric Ferris. I'm the Assistant City Manager over Development Services, and that's engineering, building inspection, health, code enforcement, fire prevention, planning and economic development, and animal services. So we go from cats and dogs to benchmarks and all in one sentence. Fighting farmer. Grew up west of town when there was no Flower Mound, there was no Copper Canyon. There was one Lewisville High School, 79 state fighting farmer semi-final team. So been around, went to North Texas, stood on the sidelines there for a few years. Got my head on right, graduated from A&M. I'm starting my 29th year at the city of Lewisville last Wednesday, so been here a while.
David Solomon, I'm the city engineer. I started working here in 2005 as the assistant city engineer. Prior to that, I was with the engineering department in Denton for 20 years. So I've been doing this for quite a while, but for not quite 10 years here in Lewisville. And I'm originally from Wisconsin, but I've lived here in the metropolitan area for 30 years.
You'll hear a lot from David during this process.
You talk about being a fighting farmer, and you talk about being a fighting farmer. I was Big John's mom.
Oh, really?
Lived in my house for a year.
Wow. Wasn't Big John a woman for a while, a girl?
And not at that point in time.
Well, I know that, but
yes, there has been a girl.
There has been a girl. Okay, cool.
Okay, so I've given you time to think about chair and co-chair. So let's start with chair. Is there a discussion as to who might want to take on that responsibility?
Bob did a wonderful.
I nominate Ray Hernandez.
I would second the nomination.
All in favor?
Aye. Do you want it?
I didn't have to ask Brad if he wanted it.
I wouldn't have nominated him if he didn't want it, so.
And Bob, would you do the honors? You did a wonderful job as chairing our committee.
I
As
would,
co-chair?
yeah, as co-chair.
Yeah.
Sure.
I'll
I
second
really
that.
should see to you.
There you go. Gonna chair. I nominate Bob for.
I'm going to move on to center. Forgot.
Are there any other nominations for vice co-chair?
You can sit there.
With
You can sit there. I'm okay here.
Yes.
Yes.
All in favor? Well, no, you're the chair now. You need to do this.
All right. No other nominations? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Looks like you're our vice chair by affirmation. Excellent.
Thank you very much.
All right.
You have the agenda. So Ray, the next item on setting future meeting dates and times, if you don't mind, I'll just start going, I'll go over that with the committee. So we gave you a book that has various information, including a roster, both staff and the committee members, and a preliminary schedule. I'm under tab 1. And preliminary dates. We went the old-fashioned route and gave it to you a hard copy. But what I do want to say is I did that on a preliminary basis because I don't know what works best for your schedules. I will tell you, I selected Thursday nights just because some of you are on other boards. Some of those boards meet on Tuesday, some meet on Wednesdays, and so I suggested Thursday, but that's a point of discussion for the group.
Does Thursday work for everyone? Is there a better day?
Thursdays are good for
No,
me.
Thursdays in
Yeah,
general.
Thursdays,
Not every.
yeah.
We're not going to meet every Thursday.
Yeah, Thursdays.
Not yet, anyway.
Thursdays are good.
Thursday works for me. It would help me to be at closer to 6:30 instead of 6.
Yeah.
It's a push for me to at 6.
Well, actually, 3 is good for me. No, I'm kidding.
3 would almost be easier than 6.
And staff is flexible, so you pick the
And
time.
I echo that on the 6th, as you saw me coming in late.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, 6:30 is just a little bit easier on last day.
6:30.
6 Thursdays. The only Thursday that I have a challenge with is the third Thursday of the month, but I have a set meeting with work, but I could always miss part of that meeting. So it won't be an issue.
And Ray, what I did was, if you look through, tentatively, I figured people would want Christmas and Thanksgiving off, just a guess on my part. So as you flip through, you can see it's a pretty heavy schedule. It's every week, except for some key weeks when you've got holidays. And what that calendar? It's just falls under tab 1.
Oh, maybe I don't have it.
No, it's every week?
No, hold on a second. You don't have the calendar in there?
I may not, because but is it right after this page?
Yeah, it should be.
Okay.
Right.
Here, you're out.
Okay,
Give
well, that's all right.
everything
Okay. I'll look at
Sorry
this real
about
quick.
Preliminarily, we are meeting that frequently. However, if we move faster than expected, certainly it's up to the committee. We could reduce that number. But there's a lot of information to get through. I did look at previous Blue Ribbon committees, and it did take that number of meetings, but you could reduce that as we move along.
I would suspect a lot of the meeting is going to be staff reports. So we'll have all that information to review beforehand. So maybe we could just do staff summaries during the meeting to speed those along. And then that would just be incumbent on us, if we want to have shorter meetings, to make sure we read all our material and be well versed in before we get here.
Yeah, well, a lot of the information, and I'm going to go through this in the information that I'll supply next, but you will have project recommendations. And so you're going to have different staff members, such as David, who's going to walk you through those recommended projects. And so it takes some time to get through those. And so it's different. It's really not a summary report.
Okay.
It's more a project by project basis. And so it does take some time to get through it.
Now, if the committee, any of the committee members were going to recommend any revisions to the recommendations, or either to increase some of what was recommended, would we address those during that segment of whatever we're covering? So if we're going to do a street project, so keep that in mind as we're going through this, that if there's something that, I know we've heard a lot about neighborhoods and investing in neighborhoods, so when we get to that point, make sure you voice whatever concern or question you have at that point, so we can address it during the proper time. That way we're not, going back again, so, as much as possible.
So I hear it's, so every Thursday at 6:30. You move to item 5, Ray, discussion of advisory board responsibilities. There is under tab 3, you actually have the PowerPoint that's going to be up on the screen behind you. So I'll just flip through that, and that's going to give you kind of an overview of your responsibilities. And some general information about the Blue Ribbon process.
Does everybody have that?
Everybody have that?
Where? Under tab 3.
If you flip into it, there's about the 4th page, you'll see Charge of Blue Ribbon Capital Planning and Vision 2020 Advisory Board. So the council created this committee, and when they did that, they actually specified a certain responsibility, and it's dual. Normally, it's just been in the past, when this committee's been appointed, purely just capital planning, but we thought because we were using the members of the 2025 committee, that we would also give you that dual role of actually also serving as the Blue Ribbon implementation body. If you remember, that came out as a recommendation from the committees. And so this committee will actually exist over a longer period of time than the Blue Ribbon process. So you'll exist until we've got the 2025 committee implemented. And so some of you may move away and, need to be reappointed over time. So the Blue Ribbon process really will be the first 6 months of your appointment. After that, you're going to go to more of a quarterly meeting process. And we may reach a point in time where, every 6 months or even annual may be enough meetings. But at this point in time, it's pretty intense with the blue ribbon process.
I'm gonna ask, are we meeting in this room?
Yes, I'm sorry. We will meet in this room. We have this room reserved.
The timeline describes what you just mentioned, so the first 6 months will be the committee review of departments.
That's correct. That's correct. So the board is responsible for reviewing and prioritizing staff capital project requests. You don't have those tonight. What we're going to do is we're going to give that to you in sections because it's a little overwhelming. The original recommendations that came into our shop was over $250 million worth of projects. I know, Derek, that doesn't mean anything to you after being involved in the school process, bond elections, but $250 million worth of projects is a lot of projects. And so what happened to that list is the department heads worked to prioritize that, okay? And so then they're in categories. You have street projects and drainage projects. You have park projects and you have facilities. So we're going to take the street and drainage first. So you're going to become very, very friendly with David. He'll be doing most of those presentations, and he's going to walk you through the staff recommendations. What I want you to know is that if you know of a project that you don't see included, it's your job to bring that to the committee. So if you think there's something the staff has missed, then please bring that up, and we can go back and we can analyze it and respond to that issue. So don't feel like it's just limited to what the staff is recommending to you. Next meeting, you're going to have Brenda that's going to come in, Brenda Martin. She's our Director of Finance, and she and Gina are going to go through the financial picture. So you have a picture of how much money we have from the various sources of revenue. And we'll talk about the different sources, everything from GO bonds, COs, stormwater drainage fees, those type of sources. And that will give you the idea of how many projects actually can be dealt with in this 10-year time frame. Obviously, there's not going to be funding for $250 million worth of projects. So the real challenge to the committee will be able to take staff recommendations, your own thoughts, which those are going to be the staff recommendations prioritized by category, and then coming up with that overall project list. Does that make sense? Okay.
So just a quick question, does each category get a certain amount, or could we organize it by, these are the goals for the 2025 plan, let's just do what moves those forward?
It's going to really be a committee recommendation to the council about what percentage of that money gets spent on the different projects.
Okay.
Okay? So I can tell you historically that streets has been where most of the money has been spent. And we can talk more about why that happens. You'll see a bulk of the requests are going to be related to streets. Now, if you look at 2025, you're going to see a lot of focus on trails. So Bob's going to come to you and he's going to talk about the different trail recommendations. And they're going to be smaller in number and scope than the streets. But it's going to be, again, the committee looking at all of the various requests within the allowable dollars.
Okay, so it's not like we have to pick 75 million worth of streets and, okay.
I'm not going to tell you that.
Okay.
So that's why you have a committee. So you guys have some freedom to make those recommendations to the council as you see fit.
I think to continue on her, there'll be some staff recommendations on what things should be priority. Will those staff recommendations also come with some dollar amounts, what it will cost to address that priority?
Every single project has a cost estimate. Excellent. Every single project.
Okay.
So as I just said, there's various options for funding. Cash, available cash, GO bond, and COs. I'm not going to get in that tonight because that's a whole nother presentation as to what is a general obligation bond or certificate of obligation. Robert, were you on the park board when we did, Brenda and I did that presentation, so you've seen some of that in the past. So that'll be your next week's meeting. And you'll have all the information you need about what that available funding picture looks like and the approach that's been taken in the past. Okay. So your job would be to formulate and promote the passage of the program that you would recommend to the City Council for the election. So I said formulate and promote. So let me talk about that a little bit. So the state law does not allow a city to spend money on marketing a blue ribbon bond, a GO bond program. We can spend money on educating the public. So we can create information on what the components of the program are, what your recommendations are, the total cost, but we cannot produce anything that says, please vote yes. So in the past, what's happened is this group has tended to form what I would call a political action committee, a PAC, and you actually go out and raise money necessary to go out and market the campaign. So in the past, that's normally been a flyer, and I believe, Gina, we have one of those in your backup, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Because we can, as a city, we cannot go out and say, please vote yes. That makes sense? Mm-hmm. Derek, I think you've been involved in that process from the school side.
Yeah.
So
with that, I tell you what, we just wrapped up Arlington. Got $800 million out. Basically, on that one, we had to set up 6 meetings every single night for a 6-month period. We had people out 6 nights a week. All right, 6 people, 6 nights a week. Homeowners groups, church groups, citizens groups, anywhere we could find an audience, we got people out in front of them. We ran through the PowerPoint, we answered their questions, yes, no. You know, at times we had to say, we'll just agree to disagree. That's what the election's for us to have a voice. But here's the committee's point of view, and here's what we're seeing, here's what our point of view. It's gonna really come down to us, guys. It's gonna come down to us. Our dream for this city, what we can put forward. And that part, I'm asking you, don't let it intimidate you. People are coming because they're interested. Mm-hmm. There will be an organized opposition, there always is to every bond issue. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, your passion, your belief in what the city can and will and should be will what sell the day. So really, us at this table, we're making a huge piece whether this is successful or not.
Thank you, Derek. Very well stated. Again, staff's here to support you. We're here to let you know the projects that we think are important. We're here to give you the cost of those projects. We're here to support. We can create certain marketing materials, but we can't go out and tell the public to vote yes. We can't spend any money on that. But we are here to supply information. Every staff member you see here, including myself, is here to support you, as well as some that you're going to meet soon. So don't feel like you're out there Lone Ranger, but when I started this meeting, I said this is one of the most important committees that the city will appoint in the next 10 years, because nothing is more important than the investment in our capital infrastructure. So with that said, the target for this is tentatively November of 2015. That has a lot of points that we're going to have to meet in order for that to occur. One would be, I'd like to see recommendations going to the City Council in March at their retreat. And that's why you have a very aggressive schedule. Now, I'm going to tell you, though, that it's the council's decision about whether or not to call that election and what's in that election. And so I'm going to back up a few years to when the 2001 Blue Ribbon was appointed. When that group was appointed, that election actually wasn't held until 2003. So things could change, things could come up. In that particular process is what happened was the council stepped back and they said, you know what? We could actually consider a 4B sales tax. And if a 4B sales tax is passed, then that 4B sales tax can actually support many of the park projects. And that's exactly what happened. The council stepped back. They didn't call the election for the GO bond program. Instead, there was a whole separate initiative for, and Robert talked about the 4B earlier. There was an initiative for passage of a quarter-cent sales tax that was limited only for park projects. Now, we'll talk more about that. We'll talk about it in more detail at the next meeting. But that's another point to keep in mind when we talk about what projects will get funded. Because when that went to the voters, that sales tax was designed to support your park projects. I'm going to tell you that sales tax is maximized at this point in time. We've had 2 major bond programs, certificate of obligations, and we'll talk about that at the next meeting. And so until that debt starts rolling off, you're not going to really be able to sell additional bonds against the 4B sales tax. And so there's some limiting factors with that. And again, that was part of that marketing package. And we'll talk about that in more detail at the next meeting. But just that is something to keep in mind. So with that said, the target is November of 2015, but that actually could change based on council direction. So I've already talked a little bit about why I thought it was so important. It was my recommendation to the council that members of the Blue Ribbon be on this Blue Ribbon Planning Committee because everything gets back to the issues. If you look at the big moves that are listed there for you, every single one of those big moves has infrastructure that's necessary to make it a reality. So if you look at extending the green is your trails. If you look at Old Town is quality streets, quality facilities. Thriving neighborhoods is your streets and your sidewalks. Again, the basic infrastructure of your city is so fundamental for the success of the 2025 plan. Sustainability. We're going to talk about facilities with this group. How will these facilities be designed? Will they be green? She knows a lot about green. Her house is totally green. So how will that be viewed? That's not something we looked at in 2001, the design of facilities. But 2025 has made all of us step back and look at things differently. You, more than anyone, know that reality. So that's what was so important. You all have you bring expertise to the table from various different boards, and the time frame just matched so lovely. So if it goes to the voters in 2015, that's exactly 10 years until 2025. So it all kind of came together. So the next page, again, is your timeline. Here we are in October, and as you look through that schedule, we'd like to have a final prioritized capital projects with recommended funding sources by the end of February, going to council in March. If there's going to be a November election, the council has to call that by July. Mm-hmm. So those dates start becoming very key. Then the bond election would be in November, and then the first GO bond sale would be in March. So that's the goals that we're driving towards.
When is the next school board election? Because I know, don't we like to try to run those together, get more voters out?
I don't know if they're actually working on their next election. I'm looking at my
Karen.
They're 2016?
They're in May.
They're in May of
every May of every year.
Every year, okay.
every May. Someone.
Oh, I thought you meant the bond, their next bond election, I don't.
Well, that's not,
It would be in May still.
Oh,
A bond election for the school district.
well, they don't have a bond on the table right now.
Okay, yeah, not.
Yeah, so that's,
There's one in the.
and I don't know
air,
where
but
they
there's
are
not.
on that
What's
planning
that?
process.
One in the air, but there's not.
Yeah,
Yeah, but it hasn't
but
gone.
there's no formal
to this
committee that's
point.
been appointed.
Because it's, but anyways, yeah.
But the elections can only be held in November and May. So, okay. So I don't know about the LISD planning process. So staff process to date, why we are, or where we are at this point in time. So we have rolling 5-year CIP plans. Some of those plans obviously deal with our water system and our wastewater system. That is not going to be on the table for this committee. Those are revenue bonds. They don't go to the voters in any form or fashion, but they will impact how you review street programs. When David brings to you a list of prioritized street programs, one thing that we take into account are those water lines. So if you've got 20 and 30-year-old water lines, the street may not be as high a priority as some other streets in town, but if we're going to tear up that area with new water lines and sewer lines, we probably want to do the streets at the same time. So that's just one thing to keep in mind. There's a lot of moving factors when you look at prioritization of projects. So that's just an issue to keep in mind, and David's going to talk a lot more about that when we kick off that street section, which will be your third meeting. Road and alley analysis, we've actually had a third-party company that's come in. It's really pretty cool technology. They actually drive every single street in Lewisville, and it does an assessment. It's an automated assessment of streets. David Stocks with our Public Services Department is going to walk you through that assessment and how that works. And that helps staff actually prioritize the street program. Now, that has to also have that staff knowledge to review. Sometimes it is technology that's helping review that on an automated basis. So then there's that staff knowledge, so you're going to see some shifting there also. David will also talk about the overall thoroughfare plan, status of the thoroughfare plan and what that means. And then, as I talked about earlier, they've already developed blue ribbon data sheets. Those blue ribbon data sheets are the ones I'm talking about that total about $250 million. We're not going to bring $250 million worth of projects to this committee. We're going to bring a reasonable number for you to review, a reasonable number of what we think can be done in the next 10 years. Okay? And the information that's listed here is the information that you'll have on every single project. We will present the projects by category, street and drainage first, parks next, and then facilities. And as I said earlier, the committee can certainly bring additional projects to the table for discussion, and staff will step back and analyze that, and we'll give you the information as to how we think it should rank. But again, the final end result is going to be a recommendation from this committee and your thoughts. If you want to take road trips, we're very glad to do that. So we've done that in the past where we'll actually get a bus and we'll take you out and we'll show you these projects and we'll tell you what or why staff is recommending why they're recommending it. So feel free to request that. If you have an individual issue and you'd like to go out and show me or Eric or one of us, always feel free to do that. This committee and what you're doing is a top priority for me and my staff. So please do not hesitate in calling us. Let's see. Attorney General's office reviews the structure of all city bond programs. So just know that does influence how your ballot looks. So I'll go back to the 2003 election. When we looked at the projects, you had street projects, and we thought you had public safety projects. They came back and said, no, that's not clear enough. You need to break out that jail separately. That needs to actually be a separate item on your ballot. So there will be some, obviously, legal review on how the program that you recommend actually goes to the voters. It's a very legalistic process, and it has to be, the goal is, so when the voters go to vote on a GO bond election, it's very clear what they're voting on. When we take a GO bond election, you may have, and we will discuss, a very specific number of street projects. When you see that ballot, you're not going to see a list of street with that ballot item. You won't even see us. We will educate the public about where those streets potentially will be and what they will include. But because over time, things can change. You can get grant money that can be used to actually construct those streets or improve those streets. The last time we actually had it's called ELAP money, which was related to DCTA, and a lot of the projects that we thought would be done with grant money, in the end was done with ELAP money. So really, you've got a dollar amount out there that's going to accomplish certain improvements. In the end, what we thought was only a 10-year bond program last time became a 13-year bond program. So it can change, but there's a lot of legalities to the ballot and how it's done. If we were to go out with marketing materials that specifically listed streets, we could be actually held to those streets. So you don't want to do that either. So everything really would be more as an example of the type of projects that will be accomplished. Does that make sense? So, okay. I'm going to give you a little information on the previous GO bond elections that we've held. We've talked about 2001 Blue Ribbon Committee. The actual election was in 2003. It was for a total of $68.7 million. Of that, $64.3 million was dedicated to streets and drainage, $3.1 million to a jail, and $1.3 million to a training facility, which we just opened this last year. So. In '98, we had a 5-year program totaling $32.4 million. Prior to that was '93 at $13.4. Back to 1986, you had a $25 million program. There were probably programs before '86, but I couldn't find that information. So that is the Blue Ribbon process and how we're going to go through this review. So let's stop a minute there and talk about questions. Issues, concerns.
Have you done any polling as to a dollar amount that you think the citizenry will accept?
We have not done a polling. What I'm going to show you next week is what we've done from a financial standpoint on the way we've approached it in the past. We've gone to the voters with what could be accomplished with no increase to the debt rate. And that has tended to work very well. And so what we're going to show you is that you can sell over the next 10 years around $75 million worth of GO bonds and not increase your debt rate. Okay? So that's the approach we're taking. Now, I've included in your books, because I think it's really interesting, it's under tab 5. Denton is about to hold a GO bond election. And I included information on that because they're actually asking the voters to increase their debt rate by 3 cents. Significant. So I have included that information. That's not been our approach in the past. That doesn't mean that you could not make a recommendation to the city council about that. It tends to be, I think, more sellable if you go out to the voters and say you can approve this and it's not going to cost you more. Denton's chosen not to do that. And if you can have projects that are supported, as Derek said, you've done some kind of polling and you know that the public's going to be supportive of, let's just talk about trails. When we went through 2025, that's what we heard overwhelmingly. every time we've surveyed the public, we hear about the desire for more trails. So is that sellable to the point where they would be willing to see their debt rate increase? That's the
Historically,
question.
it hasn't been, right, though? And we'll have that kind of information.
You'll have that kind of information.
What has worked and
What hasn't?
Do you have a possible meteorologist on staff?
A meteorologist.
Yes. And the reason why I said if a big thing is trails, and I think I brought this up in our committee, the forecast of the next 10 or 5, 10, 15 years of this area is that basically the desert climate is expanding. And so if you're having trails and there's no very little irrigation or very little plant life or anything like that because of the movement of the climate of becoming so desert climate, I want to see if that was possibly in the next however many years, if that may be a big thing. Because if it's, say if the normal temperature of the city of Lewisville goes up on an average 10 degrees, and then the season spreads an extra month, will that be a high priority to have trails when majority of the time the temperature is so uncomfortable that you don't have many of your citizens participating on that? So that's why I asked.
I do not have a meteorologist on staff. Certainly, I think you would answer that question by looking at surveying the public.
Okay.
And in a sense, that's what 2025 was really about,
Right.
was trying to figure out what your public wanted. And you have to look at trails really, to me, in two different ways. One is certainly for pleasure, but anymore, there is a transportation issue related to trails too, and I think Bob would talk to you about that. You've got cyclists out there that would like to ride their bikes to the rail stops and be able, and the connectivity committee dealt with that quite a bit. So you have to really look at it in two ways. And when Bob comes in and he talks to you about trails, he'll paint that picture.
Can I ask a quick question, getting back to the marketing, when you said it's going to be our responsibility to do that? Do you mean like holding public hearings for the public to come out, or can you explain a little bit more how, we are supposed to implement this?
Absolutely. So I think that, let's go back to when we did the 4B sales tax. That committee that formed, they actually set up some public meetings. Staff was there to help answer questions, but that was a major means of marketing, and I think probably holding a couple of public forums for people to come in and talk about the projects and learn about the projects would be very important.
Is that something that we could use the MCL grant for?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, you could use city.
Okay.
Yeah, you could use city facilities to do it.
Okay.
Yes, you could.
And we can do seminars and.
Some type of public forum where,
Okay.
and staff could come in and we can educate. Again, we just can't stand there and say, please vote yes.
Okay, so you guys could put it on your website as to the dates, locations, and everything like that,
Absolutely.
and.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Anything that's used to educate the public, we can absolutely do that.
Okay.
We
But it was-
cannot spend money on a flyer that goes out that says, vote yes
Okay.
for this
But we can get
election.
organizations like the Mill and Main organization or the chamber or others to advocate to vote for the funding. I have a question. So $75 million without any increase to the debt load, but
That's correct.
and so
And that's GEO bonds.
right. So if we increase debt load, will we have information per half cent, per 1 cent with that? So if we feel comfortable that the voters will support an increase, do some of that, maybe not the extent of Denton, but if there's something, because we hear from, I hear this every day. People want us to invest back in the infrastructure of our community. I think it's important for that. So will we have information about how much that will increase the dollars that are available?
Are you talking
I'm not
about
saying
if
that
you
we
were,
will.
if you were to increase the
Yes.
debt rate and what that would generate? Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, and Brenda's gonna talk to you some about that. We're gonna show you two different scenarios. She's got one that actually shows that debt rate going up and how much that generates. We'll also show you what we can issue and when under the 4B sales tax. We'll also talk to you about something called the stormwater drainage utility fee. We are the only city, other than Carrollton, of our survey cities that does not have a stormwater fee. Stormwater fee can fund your drainage projects. So that's been something that's been discussed over the years. We did take that to council 2 years ago, and they are supportive, but we wanted to bring it back out to a committee to look at it in relation to your capital projects.
And Donna, just to echo that too, it's a really good presentation. I think it goes over with the different scenarios, the 4B tax, and I mean, what was just ballpark number? You did paint a picture of the park board that, hey, there could be 150.
I believe we could issue up to, I believe it was 20 million within the next 10 years through COs. It's been a while, and of course, we've got new estimates now, so Brenda will have updated numbers for you. But you're gonna have some additional capacity for your parks programs with your 4B sales tax. And there's cash. How much cash is sitting out in the 4B fund now, Gina?
About 7 million. Annually, it's around 700,000. That's not tied up right now. That could go to fund something.
Initially, when we established the 4B fund, we actually had a specified dollar amount that was being transferred to a trails account every year. When the sales tax went down, when we had the downturn in the economy, we stopped doing that. But if Bob were here, he would tell you that to build 1 mile of trail, Steve, cost, or David, it's an ungodly number.
About 500 to 800.
About $500,000 per 1 mile of trail.
Oh, wow. Yeah, and that's a trail that, I guess, is it a standard size trail?
That's a concrete
Okay.
trail.
It's one side bike, one side walk?
No, that's
Just
a
standard
concrete, standard,
sidewalk kind of trail?
10 foot or 8 foot, Steve?
With no curves in it or anything like
Ones
that?
we're looking at are 10, there are some 8s.
8,
8
okay.
and 10.
Yeah, we got some in our neighborhood.
So when you look at the cost,
Yeah.
I was with some of my friends in Colorado, and we were on this road that's called the $1 Million Highway, which was a big deal back when it was built. And they were still going, wow, $1 million. I'm like, $1 million doesn't build anything. It just takes, nothing. So,
Yeah, there's a trail in Michigan that starts at Lake Michigan and goes to Grand Rapids. And it's used year round because it's in the winter, they cross-country ski on it and snowmobile and all of that kind of stuff. It's
very expensive.
possible.
Yeah.
And it's very, very expensive.
It sounds reasonable to me.
yes, ma'am.
You mentioned that
To me, it is too, even
you
though
were
that's
having
not
like
something that
a
I
truck
would do
go out
every
and
day,
survey all of the alleys and streets. Is the city putting
We have to
together
start
kind of
thinking
the
about our-
infrastructure report card? Because to me, I feel like, if we wanted to, say, increase the debt ratio, one way by justifying that would be, I would support that if I thought that making an investment that didn't increase our debt meant that we weren't investing enough in our infrastructure and we were just continuing to fall behind. But, from there, you would kind of need to know where we are now and what's the need and when the old stuff has to be replaced.
We do not have that specific analysis on all infrastructure needs like Carrollton does. Carrollton has that infrastructure report card. We have done an analysis related to the street assessment and the alley assessment and the cost of replacement, but not so much on trails.
And are we
It's
gonna
on our
have,
to-do list.
are we gonna have that information?
Yes.
Okay.
You will have all of that information.
Okay.
Donna, one other last question on this. So this is all about capital spending, right? So when you look at, for example, do some development at Lake Park, right? And you may need additional support, like an OpEx going forward. Are we gonna be able to see those numbers as well too? And then on top of that, revenue, for example, you do Lake Park, and let's say there's cabins we wanna put in, what's the revenue stream look like for that?
All of the project sheets are going to show you the O&M that's related to that project. I don't think we have, do we have revenue projections on any?
If there's a non-revenue, they've built it into the operating impact, but.
For an example, a
lot of times we don't
recreation
know.
center, if you were to support a new recreation center, you would have revenue, estimated revenue. Street's not gonna have estimated revenue, or a trail's not gonna have estimated. So most of the projects will be done.
Yeah, we'll do some neighborhood toll roads.
Technically you can't. They're only NTTA can set tolls these days.
Toll trail.
A toll trail, that would be creative, that would be very creative.
The gate opens up and you go through there.
And all your family comes rushing through.
I know.
But you can get quarter for a cart, so why get that quarter for the trail?
There you go.
I'd like to go backwards if I could to the Lewisville school bond, the last one that went through. If I remember correctly, it was like $750 million. And they broke it into chunks. They put really much everything they dreamed about in the big side, and then they put the sacrificial lamb on the other side. And so there's the ability to sort of chunk it as to how the bond package is presented. So we can, it can be structured in many, many different ways. Arlington chose to put all of theirs together at one fell swoop and just roll the dice, all or nothing. And so there's ways it can be structured. There's a lot of different ways and different philosophies. So
The district
Very
lost
true.
part of what they wanted because.
they lost the sacrificial lamb. They put it up there on purpose to give some the ability to say no to something.
But with our voter turnout, that just concerns me because, I mean, every year it just gets worse and worse and worse, so, I mean.
Well, the good thing about voter turnout is you don't focus on all the registered voters, you focus on the voters that vote.
That's true, but we don't want the majority of the voters that vote against it.
Right, so you educate just the voters to vote. So when we create an outside entity, that outside entity will only focus on the voters that have voted probably in the last 3 or 4 elections. And so the pool of voters that actually vote is gonna go way up compared to all the voters. So you're a more focused shot. So we're not casting a huge net, we're aiming a laser beam at the ones that actually are engaged.
So do we have access to those voter rolls of those people that actually vote?
When we create another entity, and there's different ways.
can get
I know
them from
the
them.
last bond election was a $2 to $9 million bond election for a tech stock partnership. The outside entity gathered all that information for us.
Okay, so we're not gonna have to do any door knocking or anything like that?
Well, she wanted to bring
Okay.
that up. I was gonna mention that. With the park board, just before I joined, maybe 8 years ago, when it was the 4B fund.
4B sales tax.
Yeah, for Railroad Park, Toyota Lewisville Park. Jeff and team, they literally knocked doors. And he can tell you some of the stories, some of the park board members that have been on the board for a while. Dave Atkinson and a couple others, they'll tell you, I mean, literally door knocking.
Yeah, I'm
And
not
that's what it
partial
takes.
against that, because I've done that for other school board candidates, but I just wanna know what we're looking at. We're gonna start working on it right now.
You would only knock on the doors of the voters. So I remember when I was in Kyle, in the street that I lived on, it was 6 blocks long, but I only knocked on 10 doors. Because they were the only, and we just walked right past them because we knew they hadn't voted, so the likelihood that they were gonna vote and spend our time having a conversation wasn't gonna be very.
Yeah, so we need to start now, because if we want this on November 15th, we need to start getting people interested and start getting them geared up to vote.
You have your HOAs and your neighborhood committees, the people who show up to those meetings.
But not
are the
every
people
community
that will
in here have an
usually vote.
HOA. It's only, what, 2 neighborhoods in
We have
Lewisville that has,
HOA.
see, my neighborhood doesn't have an HOA. And I
Mine
don't
doesn't
know.
either, but we have a loosely formed neighborhood group.
See, not every neighborhood in Lewisville have
Not
that.
everybody does,
Yeah.
but say someone would say, I know 17 people, I'll invite them to my house for
Yeah.
coffee.
Okay, yeah.
There you go.
Okay, so we're gonna put that on the sideline for now continue the conversation.
Okay.
So that is the blue ribbon part of this process. What I wanted to spend a little bit of time on is giving you a status report of where we are on 2025. So the council did obviously adopt the 2025 plan. You have the big moves that are on a board listed behind you. In your books, your notebooks, you actually have the 2025 adopted plan. And then under which tab, Jennifer, is this committee recommendations? Number 6 has the committee recommendations specifically. And all of the attachments to your 2025, that baseline report that you have, are online. And if you look under tab 6, she's actually shown you on the website where you can find that and how you can access the various attachments. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Is there going, I couldn't find anything on the website right now about this committee. Is there anything?
Probably not, other than it's been appointed.
Yeah, that's all I saw.
We are video recording these meetings so that we will make that information available.
I guess we don't need to eat potato chips. Have a sheet of yellow tea.
Yellow tea. And we will have the minutes that we'll post from these meetings. And if there are other things you want us to post as we go along, we can certainly do that also.
The reason I brought that up is there were, on the city page on Facebook, there were a number of people that asked questions about what's going on. And I said, we've got this committee, and I was going to post a link to the agenda. And
it's not there.
It wasn't there, so.
We will add that.
We're meeting, but.
We'll work with James and we'll get that added.
Okay.
We can now say we have a chair and we have a co-chair and we have a schedule. We didn't really know what the schedule would be.
The
dirt pile.
Yeah, we'll take place at the dirt pile Facebook page.
Yes.
The dirt pile, better name.
We'll show them the county dirt pile over on Valley Parkway.
Maybe that dirt pile will take over our dirt
It's
pile.
huge, it's huge right now.
I know Winnie's pretty tall too. Winnie is pretty tall right now too.
The what is Kim?
Winnie, the Winco.
Oh, Winco, yeah, Winnie, okay. So what you have here listed on this slide is the results of our 14-15 budget process, where the council actually approved $2.6 million worth of projects related just to the 2025. And they did a couple of things that showed their strong support for 2025. One was they approved $757,000 for a Vision 2025 incentives and special projects fund. Because of where we were, they had just adopted the program, so there's not going to be a lot of staff recommendations. We asked council to start putting aside money for the type of incentive programs that the committees had recommended, and you have staff now working on recommendations that will need to go back to the council. But we wanted to go on and ask the council to set aside that money, and they did. So they were extremely supportive. So this list, and I'm not going to go through this list tonight item by item, but I did want to paint the picture for you so you can see the strong support that the city council showed. And certainly, we have a councilman here tonight, and you might want to comment, but council showed a very, very strong support for the 2025 recommendations. And I will respond to any questions if anyone has on this list.
Now, where did the priority for these amounts come from? Do we have staff recommendations and council?
These are already adopted. These are already been approved by the council in your budget. And these actually were staff recommendations based on the 2025 plan. So if you flip to the next slide, then you'll see, Gina will flip to the next one. Oh, big motion, already up. So we did have a staff workshop on big moves, and we are working on a specific staff implementation plan. So we'll actually bring those back to you, and you'll see more of a breakdown, a step-by-step process on implementation of 2025. That is a work in progress, and I don't think we would have that ready for you to see any earlier than March. But it is our goal to get that back to you as soon as possible. Thriving neighborhoods, one of the focuses there was a neighborhood services coordinator that was budgeted and approved by the council. We've gone out, we've actually accepted applications.
Wow. Which of these people does that fall under? That would be you. Just curious.
We have actually recruited, we've got applications.
We have a large candidate pool, and we're narrowing that down, and then we'll be doing pretty extensive interviews and assessment centers, and to get the right person in that position, and to bring some experience if they have it, if it's out there, about some of the things that Big Moves 4 outlined in that neighborhood. The Big Moves 4 thriving neighborhoods, that's a huge topic. It's not necessarily just residential neighborhoods. It could be commercial neighborhoods as well. It can be other types of neighborhoods, but it goes as everything from simple things, from fence incentives, all the way down to grouping those neighborhoods into certain movements, such as maybe self-funding some things in those groups, identification, coordination of these types of things, the bond projects that would service their subdivision. So this spans across every department. This person will be in the Department of Neighborhood Services, but it will be very universal to police, to fire, to parks, to the council, to the Parks Board, to the Planning and Zoning Commission, to the CBG Committee, to the LISD. This will be a very active position.
This person, I think, will mean a lot to us.
Well.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So that amount that's already been funded covers salary and all the expenses concerned with that position?
Absolutely, absolutely. So we're well underway on that.
Awesome.
Green Centerpiece is Leela. And we are in discussions with both UNT and LISD on Leela. The council did actually approve dollars so that we can actually assist in the funding of the staff at Leela. And also they funded what is described in your plan as a master strategy, development of a master strategy. We brought on Karen Walls, you remember Karen from the 2025 program, and she is assisting with that development. Karen was really key in the development of the Trinity program, has a lot of experience dealing with those type of nature centers and that focus on bird watching and those type of activities. So that's one of her areas of expertise. So we have contracted with her to help us with that master strategy. So that's well underway, and I would hope to have an agreement to the council by January for the management of Leela. So marketing and communications, the council funded a communications audit and brand assessment. We went out to the market in August, and we actually have proposals in, and we'll be interviewing for companies this Friday. So that's also well underway. So again, with council support, we were able to make some pretty significant moves already in relation to the big moves. So that's just a preliminary status report. Oh, let's see if we can go on. We have more. Premier Neighborhood Police Services. What was interesting, what the departments did, they took things that may not have been a specific item. Obviously, a neighborhood coordinator was a very specific recommendation that came out of the committees. Thriving Neighborhoods was also a big move, but we never talked about it specifically in relation to police. But when the police department looks at the need to have those thriving neighborhoods, obviously, safety is a major issue. So they brought to council a program to fund additional overtime hours for police officers to go into the neighborhoods on a targeted basis and deal with safety issues. So you have all the departments stepping back and looking at 2025 and what they can do to make that a reality.
Is it more expensive or less expensive to pay for overtime rather than just to hire additionals where they're having to pay the overtime?
There's not an easy answer to that question. Certainly an overtime rate is higher than the regular hourly rate. But I will tell you, to hire a police officer takes 18 to 24 months. So when you start trying to add officers, it's not easy. We probably will go through, where's Melinda? When we go out and recruit for officers, describe how the percentage of hires out of the number of applicants.
We hire about 1 officer for every 300 applicants.
Wow.
So that is an extensive process. And so what happens, Ray, is that it's often cost-effective for us to bring those officers back on an overtime basis so that we're getting more focus as quickly as we can on problem areas.
Then you've got the training on top of that.
I'm glad y'all do that. Make sure we're getting cuckoos on the
It's a creative way to deal with the situation. We're down, honestly, we're down 10 officers right now. And so, and that's not unusual. We're not different from any of the other cities. But when the economy it starts booming like it is right now, it becomes more and more difficult to hire those officers. It's competition. So.
Not just the officers, but other industries as well.
Other industries.
Out there. I mean, I just had
Safety and security.
a phone call today to go work overseas in that kind of field, getting paid $90,000 for 90 days.
Wow.
It becomes very, very competitive. So this type of program allows us to have the additional officer time, even at a period when we're down on our number of officers. Identity focal points, we are moving forward with the lake development project. I can't give you any specifics on that other than we do have some good prospects and it is moving forward. I-35 expansion, Eric can probably talk to you and tell you some of the strategies that we're looking at right now for I-35.
Well, 35, as we know, is going to be a long-term project. Right now, what you see that AGL is constructing from Whitlock to 380 in Denton is really phase 1 of many. It's I'm going to call it 1.5, 1.7 billion of a $5 billion project. So there's going to be some widening of the corridor, as you've seen, in 2 different phases. Phase 1 widening is just going to accommodate the 1.7, and it's going to be through Lewisville. It's going to be some collector distributor lanes down by the mall, some managed lanes through Lewisville, and 2 additional capacity lanes. And it basically goes down from there as you go north. I think through Denton, all they're getting is a couple of managed lanes, but the idea with 35, that's going to be unfortunately a long-term project. The good thing is a lot of the things that are happening in Lewisville are being built to ultimate. You'll see the 407 35 interchange is progressing right now. 35 will fly over 407. If you look at that old quirky bridge, and I kind of grin because I don't know what that bridge only had there in my life. And you know, it goes off skews and it comes down in front of Big Jacks, but that'll be gone. We'll have a public report coming out around December. Before that time, January, that bridge will come down for about 6 months, plus or minus. And of course, 35 will go over, and 407 will go straight through. The straight through will look something like 3 or 4 lanes that'll go underneath each way, east-west, with some dual turning movements. And you'll go to Lake Park and transition back to the 2-lane east of the tracks, and it will transition west back to the 4-lane divided 407 to the west. So that project is going to be ultimate. Garden Ridge will be next. and traffic will be detoured to Valley Ridge. But you're looking at a 3.5 to 4 year time frame on phase one. Our guess is they'll get some revenues from the toll, from the managed lanes, and they'll probably continue on in year 3. So it'll be a continuous project for a number of years. When it's finished, the city of Lewisville, through the quarter, has come up, and y'all saw that in 2025 with some aesthetic features on the embankment walls, new form liners, some art, some landscaping, some street lights, and some rail treatments that are quite different than the other cities. Denton just now is realizing they probably ought to have a 935 plan. So they're years behind us. I'm not saying we're perfect, but we are, I think, on the edge, on the lead curve this time, trying to do something cool when you come through Lewisville. We'll be probably looking at doing an overlay district within the year, a development district with development guidelines. We already have some strategic ordinances in place that we're going to be giving to council for consideration in December about a redevelopment structured ordinance, that what happens to these properties that are sawed off and left on hold. Can they redevelop? Do they go away? And we have a pretty good matrix that's going to council in December. Council will be considering probably some zoning issues and some land use issues that match 2025. So a lot happening with 35, and I view it as one of Lewisville's biggest days, because I love the water tower, but you know, a lot of people drive through Lewisville and say, well, there's that motel with those tall pine trees. You know, I'm not saying it, but it's just saying that's probably still going to be there. But again, there's some things that are our opportunity to change, I think, for the better of Lewisville as you go through. That's right on our horizon. That freeway is going to carry 180 to 200,000 cars a day, as opposed to other cool retail intersections out west or east of us that carry 50 to 75,000. So where do you want to put your pedestrian mall, or take a pick, 200,000 or 50,000? So we've got some land available for that and some huge opportunities.
You might talk a little bit about what Nick has been doing with all the existing businesses and relocation.
A lot of the businesses, the right-of-way take is going in 2 parts right now. It's a little confusing for everyone, but it's getting better. TxDOT is acquiring property for phase 1 widening, and that's just the interim. They're also doing first shot, and they'll give you 1 shot on ultimate right-of-way. And they've tried to go through with all the residential and take all the residential. That way those people aren't stuck for 6 or 7 years wondering. They've made offers, they're pretty good. For the most part, that's taken place through the corridor. Down south with restaurants like Mimi's and with Abuelos and Saltgrass and all those in Lake Point, a lot of our economic development staff is reaching out to those restaurants, and we're actively trying to find and help them pursue pad sites in Lewisville. And they're doing that. The Saltgrass is going over. They bought a lot in front of the Hilton Garden Inn off of Vista Ridge Mall, off of 121. And
off of 121?
By the vet.
By the
new vet.
By the new vet.
Right in front of,
Huge
right in front of Hilton Garden Inn, that's an out
Right in
parcel.
front of.
For 129.
By
Is that MacArthur?
One.
By
By the Hilton Garden.
No,
down there.
It's,
My Costco,
Oh, yeah,
right?
yeah.
it's,
They're Costco.
Yeah.
Vista, there's a
There is a
So that's
specialty
like your one
veterinary
lab.
clinic
It's
that's
huge.
building.
Why
It's
did
probably
you?
2 stories, 3 stories.
Yes.
They were.
And you know where they are, they're on 3040
Yeah,
now, they relocated.
And there's others that we're looking, and they're getting closer to looking at leases or to buy properties and redevelop. There's some properties now. There's a really cool restaurant looking at the old Fox and Hound, and we're actively pursuing that. I knew you could be the first one. I really can't say now, but it's a cool.
It's a destination type
It's a
restaurant.
destination type. It's not
It's not Papa Do's.
It's a little bit more boutique than that, but it is a Tex-Mex, but it's a little bit more boutique than the Papa Do's.
It's really good. There is one in the Metroplex.
There's 2 or 3 now, but there used to be one for over 30 years, real popular down in downtown. That was a destination.
That's all the hints we're gonna give.
That's all I can give.
Ask the Google, ask the Google.
So we're active, the point is we're actively trying to help those property owners relocate and keep them in Lewisville. And I think they see the value of that traffic pattern and that access that they're gonna have. So do you want to put your restaurant out at some intersection over here that has 30,000, or you want to stay here? So it's a no-brainer. But our ED staff's working really hard with that, and this, again, all that fits right in with what y'all are gonna be talking about with bond and 2025. It all zeroes in to the same thing.
How, are y'all talking to anybody of the people at Vista Ridge Mall or no?
Yes.
Okay.
Working with the mall, all the out parcels, and again, we're just entering that freshman year of that discussion.
Okay.
With, again, a lot will happen with 2025 and what you all set us to do. And, you know, we have a lot of other irons in the fire that are possibilities with change and when things are happening on both sides of the corridor. And again, the right-of-way tag shifts from the nautical mile along all the boat dealers. There's not much right-of-way tag in there. It's all on the west side. But it shifts back and forth as you get south. A lot of the right-of-way was on the south side in front of Garden Ridge, and affected a lot of those. In some places, it just clips. It doesn't affect them.
Is Home Depot getting clipped, or is Home
They're
Depot
getting clipped. And they're considering, again, as their opportunity, Home Depot as an example is probably gonna lose the eastern side of their parking, so they own land just east of there. That's when you drive in, that kind of wild area there. They're thinking about just two things, to redevelop and remodel, or tear the whole thing down and face it on 35. And that's an opportunity to get some, a newer store and get maybe some enclosed instead of outside storage, make it enclosed like some of the other cities have done.
Okay.
And, you know, to beautify it, make it green, and do some different things with xeriscape on their lot. So they're looking at that.
Okay, good. We're not losing them, good.
Before we move on, I just want to make a comment. Proposition 1's on the ballot right now for funding for textile without an increase in taxes. So as you go out to vote, election day is November 4th, but I know some like Bob already voted. So make sure you go to the bottom of the ballot and take a look at that.
That's my Saturday job.
Yeah, so, you know, it's no increase in taxes, but offers some funding to help maintain what textile's doing, and certainly.
Moving the gas tax around, right?
No, they're taking some of the money that's sent to the rainy day fund.
Where can I find all the propositions? What's a good place to read?
There's only one.
There's only one.
Oh, it's only one, okay.
There's only one, and then you can just Google, ask the Google, Proposition 1, Texas, and it'll pop up, and there's good articles. We'll be sharing some stuff on the Chamber's website and on Twitter feed the next couple of days. The Chamber will come out in support of it on Tuesday.
I would, about voting, I was very pleased. I went out Tuesday morning, about 8 o'clock, and I had to wait to get a machine. Every machine was filled.
That's
and
good
I had
to
to wait for about 5
hear.
minutes.
Yay, we're
That's
finally
never happened.
coming out.
Yeah,
Usually
me.
the only one in there.
I normally walk in and
Yeah.
I'm the only one in there.
Uh-huh.
I can pick my, pick the one I want.
Yeah.
Any, meeny,
Which one's gonna give me 2 votes instead of 1?
Yeah.
Sustainability, Steve, you want to talk a little bit about what we've done with sustainability?
We have a sustainability coordinator that we created after the 2025 plan. Lisa Weaver is our sustainability coordinator, as well as working with Cleve Joyner. Eric, what's the title? There's too many new titles.
Well, he's the building official, but neighborhood services director.
So the two of those folks are working together. Lisa is working with looking at solar, wind, all kinds of different functions on green aspect, and working those areas along with waste management, or the waste side, and so in water and sewer. So we kind of coordinated her. She was my environmental person, my staff originally, and so we've kind of expanded her goals and duties at this point.
So is the objective to open up, because I know there's ordinances against some of the types of green and energy efficient aspects, is to be more open-minded about those?
Yes.
Or doable, because I know some aren't doable right now, and people are wanting to kind of implement that.
Yes, we'll be looking at our ordinances and bringing back recommendations to the council in line with 2025.
Okay.
It's tied a great deal to 2025 and getting those aspects. We have some old ordinances that were like on wind. The wind turbines were, 8, 9, 10 years ago. Those things will probably change. I assume they will change, but that's a big
Council decision.
direction.
Be more current in times.
The great thing about 2025 is it's guiding what staff's working on, and it will guide council as they consider those recommendations. So, one thing that I didn't put on the list that I thought was, that I think is exciting is a paddling trail. We just did a ribbon cutting for a paddling trail. Rob, you want to talk about the paddling trail? Starts at Leela, over by the dam.
Yeah, goes a few miles south.
6 miles in Lewisville.
Yeah, right to Lewisville, right past Hebron. And,
Over 20 miles in total.
yep.
So it'll be on the statewide paddling trail designation. Yeah, paddling. Most people don't know, Lewisville is one of the best places to kayak in the Metroplex. I'm a kayaker, so it's,
There was a large turnout for that.
yeah, that's a whole green centerpiece, that new focus, again, that we have on green centerpiece, extending the green, a paddling trail is
Finding
extending.
access points.
Absolutely.
The half marathon too over the weekend
Oh,
was
yeah.
nice. A lot of people out there.
Huge
It
turnout.
was a big turnout.
What were the numbers, Steve? I forget the,
I heard over 1,100, but I may be wrong.
Yeah, that's
You
what
remember,
I did too, said 1,200.
1,200.
yeah, it was huge turnout.
It was fantastic.
Where was the
It was a
marketing
nice
done
day.
for?
Excuse me.
The marketing done, was it just on the city webpage?
It was on the city's webpage, but that was really put on, not by the city. Actually, it was by Friends of Leela.
Oh.
Friends of Leela, actually, that's a new group that was formed. Were you a new group?
No, I'm familiar with them and
Okay.
I've met with them a couple times, but yeah.
They did
they're
a
working hard.
phenomenal job,
They did.
absolutely phenomenal job.
I heard several runners talking about the fact that they do hope it's annual.
Wow.
That was the goal. Cool.
So
Because you can only get on the
hopefully they
dam if you have a reason to be on the dam. And so, you know, being able to run the dam and they were talking about the things they were able to see, you know, the birds that you wouldn't see in a neighborhood and just the different things. My son ran it and he said, other than being exhausted about 12, he was amazed at what he was able to see out there.
And this is someplace you can go, you don't have to pay to, I mean, you just go right in there. It's just.
That Leland,
No.
you have, it's like $20.
Oh, okay.
But the run, that was, I think Councilmember Gilmore participated.
He did, the
in
half
that
marathon.
dam run.
He did.
And,
He
The
did.
half
And
dam.
they used to have the dam run back in the day.
The dam half.
But you
I don't
can't
know if
get,
y'all
you
remember
the
can't get
days
to
of-
the dam unless they have an activity there.
Right,
Oh, okay.
right.
So that's
It's
kind of an
protected.
incentive.
Oh, okay.
After 9/11, it's protected very heavily. So the Corps allowed that, and the Corps, I think, was very pleased with the management of that run, and they're gonna, as I understand from Steve, and he's had some conversations with the Corps, they're gonna allow it to continue, so that's a great thing. And that really goes to how that group managed that run. Get the Corps of Engineers comfortable, you really have
And those
done a
people
lot.
came and they spent money in our city. They weren't all from here.
That's
They
right.
came and they
That's
spent
right.
money. They bought, even if they just bought a tank of gas or a convenience store bottle of water, they spent money here. So it is,
Economic
it's an
impact.
economic impact.
as an economic impact.
Sounds like it's fun too.
So that is all I had tonight. The major issue was to get organized, so we have a chair and a co-chair, and we'll be getting additional information to you. Your speakers next week will be Brenda Martin and Gina Thompson. They're going to talk to you about the finances. The rest of us will be here also to answer questions. If you have issues or concerns or questions, always feel free to call me. Yes, sir.
When did that actually work?
I'm going to turn it over to you then.
Well, for you that don't know me and that I don't know, I'm Leroy Vaughn, council member, place 1 here in Lewisville. And I really only want to say that I'm really impressed with what I've heard tonight about this group's qualifications and diversity. I think the city's done a great job in making this election. I look forward to working with you, as I'm sure my fellow council members do. And I doubly want to thank you for the commitment that you've already made with the 2025 and the other boards and commissions that you sit on. And what appears now as a pretty intensive next couple of months. We do appreciate it. look forward to your recommendations, working with you, and thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So that's all I had, Ray.
Does anybody else have any questions, comments, concerns? We'll meet next time at 6:30 in this room. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Like sign. Hearing none, we are adjourned.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
6:30.
Yeah, I'm just waiting, we can get an in-mark.
If I can get your attention for one more comment. If you have dates that you know you're gonna be out, please share them with me and with Bob through email and let the staff know so we know where we're at. I know for sure already, I'm looking at this December 17th or whatever that day is. I'm gonna be in DC for a good friend's wedding on the 18th, so I know that I won't be here on that date. So just share it rather than us share it on here. Just send it to me and Bob and alert staff.
And then you can let us know, because if we don't have a quorum, we don't want people wasting their time to get there. So
Season for my son in Hollywood, San Antonio. So I know.
We get close to 6, we'll be like
Yes,
sweating
but
it
if
out.
I get the package ahead of time, I can look it over.
Yeah.
And that's the only.
Yeah, we should be fine.
that's the meeting to be able to
Now,
watch
this
what
was a
happened.
video, they didn't see it.
I actually zoomed in. She took a line, zoomed in.
I know, I was losing. She don't do
That's what we got.
You want to tell her what she wears